okay, you guys, if you are watching this video, that is because you were struggling with how to figure out how to fill out this sheet of paper. So basically, all we're doing today is comparing linear, quadratic, and exponential functions, okay? And so there's different pieces we have to fill out about each of these. So we're actually going to just start with the linear one. So the very first thing it gives us is our parent function. So what you're going to do is you're going to add a graph. Your screen should look something like this. Our parent function for the linear equation is just f of x equals x. So we're going to type in x and hit enter. And then you're just going to sketch that. It doesn't have to be perfect. Goes through the origin though, and it is a positive slope. Okay, from here, to be able to fill out that table, we're going to use menu. We're going to hit number 7, which says table, and number 1. From there, we're going to click up, and we're starting at -3. So at -3, we're at -3. -2, -2, -1, -1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so those are your first 2 steps are going to be to fill out those 2 pieces. Let me turn this down a little bit. Okay, from there, the next question it asks us is x-intercepts, roots, zeros, and solutions. And we know that this is just our rocks. These all mean the same thing. So I'm going to move my table away. I'm going to say menu, table, remove it. Okay, now we're actually going to trace this graph to be able to figure out some of these key features. So the first thing is, I'm going to hit menu, I'm going to say number 5 and number 1. Okay, so it actually is going to start me right there. That point is 0, 0, which happens to be where it crosses the x-axis. And if you'll notice, it's also where it crosses the y-axis, which is our y-intercept. And friendly reminder, your y-intercept is the same thing as your b value. Okay, so when we're talking about linear functions, we're thinking the b value. Okay, the next thing we're thinking is slope, which is our m value. So in order to find our slope, if you've forgotten this, it is in your notes, but this is just your delta y, or the change in y, over the change in x. Okay, so in our table, this is our x, and this is our y, so I'm just going to pick these 2 points. So I'm going to say 3 minus 2 over 3 minus 2, this just gives me 1 over 1, and 1 divided by 1 is 1, okay? Next, it asks us, is this graph increasing or decreasing? So looking at our graph right here, we read from left to right. This is a positive slope, so this is going to be an increasing graph. All right, domain. Domain is my set of all x values, and to find it on a graph, we look from left to right. So I might ask myself, what's my furthest point to the left here? And if you guys look, there actually isn't one. This is going to keep going. Remember, this is just the end of your screen. So it goes and goes and goes. Same thing with our right point. So that means every number is included in my domain. So I can call that all real numbers, or that fancy R that we use. All right, my range is my set of all y values. To find it, we look from bottom to top. Does this graph have a bottom point? Well, you might say it's this, but remember, that's going to continue, and this is going to continue. So again, you can use the fancy R, or you can tell me that that is all real numbers. I'm going to leave this here for a second, in case you didn't get that. All right, moving on to our next function. Our next function, let me fold this over, we're going to look at is your quadratic function. So quadratics is what we've talked about this whole 4-6 weeks. And so it starts us off again with that parent function, f of x equals x squared. Remember, f of x is just the same thing as y equals x squared. Okay, so the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, I'm going to add a graph, type in x squared, hit enter. Okay, and you can see that parabola, that quadratic shape. So I'm just going to sketch that on my graph. Okay, from there, the next thing I need to do is fill out the table. So again, we're going to use menu 7, 1 to fill that out. We're going to click up. We're going to say, okay, at -3, we're at 9, 4, 1, 0, 1, 4, and 9. And as you can see there, it goes positive, it decreases, and then it starts to increase again, which gives us that shape. Okay? The next question is asking for x-intercepts, roots, zeros, and solutions. So remember, that's just where does this cross the x-axis. And so how many solutions does this have? It actually has, I'm going to even say this has 1 solution. because it only touches the graph one time. So in order to figure out where that is, I'm going to say menu 5, 1. In this case, it is at 0, 0. And again, actually, your y-intercept is the same, so that's also at 0, 0. All right, the next thing it asks us for is the vertex. Friendly reminder, if you've forgotten, your vertex is your highest or your lowest point on the graph. So actually, again, you guys, this is my lowest point. So if I click over it, it tells me it's a 0, it's also my y-intercept, it's also my vertex. So my vertex is also going to be 0, 0, which means my axis of symmetry, which is that invisible line that cuts down the middle, is going to cut through at this x value, so that's going to be x equals 0. All right, domain is my set of all x values. So to find it, we look from left to right. Okay, question, is this ever going to stop? I can click up and 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 up. No, it's actually never not going to. So on the left and on the right, it's that way. And so my domain is going to be all real numbers. Again, this is a math problem. If this was a real-world problem, friendly reminder, we would only look in quadrant 1. Okay, but let's talk about our range, which is my y. Does this graph have a bottom point? Yes, it does, because it has a vertex. So the bottom point value is 0, so we're going to say 0 less than or equal to y. Does it have a top point, though? It actually doesn't, and so we're not going to put anything there, but we do like to rewrite this in letter symbol numbers, so we're going to say y is greater than or equal to 0. Okay? Alright, and our very last function is the one we've spent the most time covering recently. Same function that we talked about, exponential functions, okay? So this one's kind of funky. The parent function can kind of be different depending on who you ask, but we're just going to go with the fact that f of x equals 2x. So again, very first step, you're going to graph that. So 2, hello, Miss Red. Okay, mountaintop button, x. Yes? Alright, this one's a little bit more tricky to graph, but I notice it's crossing right here at 1, and then it's got that, it's getting closer and closer and closer here, but it's not touching, and then it's going out this direction. Alright, obviously I'm not an artist. So go ahead and pull up that table, menu 7, 1. Okay. So at -3, we're at 0.125. At -2, we are at 0.25, -1, we're at 0.5. When x is 0, y is 1, 2, 4, and 8. Right, so we can even see that like exponentially starts to increase that. Alright, so it says x-intercepts roots 0 solutions. Uh-oh, is this graph ever going to touch the x-axis? Well, if you remember, we talked about the fact that this actually has a horizontal asymptote, your ha, if you will, right here. So this one actually has no x-intercepts, root zeros, or solutions. It's never, ever, ever, ever going to touch. But let's talk about the y-intercept. We can see it on our graph, but we can also see it on our table. We have a y-intercept at 0, 1. Alright, reading this graph from left to right, this is going to be a growth because it increases. Alright, so your asymptote is, remember, since it's going this way, it's going to be a y equals, so we're going to say y equals 0. Alright, and the very, very last part here, you're almost done. So your domain is your set of all x values. There's nothing stopping it on the left or the right. So we're going to call that all real numbers. Or you can use the fancy R. And lastly, your range is your y values. Remember, this is dependent upon your asymptote, and so your asymptote is right here at 0. Your graph is above that, so we're going to say y is greater than 0. It's not equal to, because it's actually never, ever, ever going to touch 0 because of that horizontal asymptote. Okay? So, you should have it all done. Ask the sub if you have any questions.